Hey, this is Asha. Thanks for joining me in today's video. And what I'm going to share with you today is, should you go ahead and start a YouTube channel or start a podcast? Let me share with you some insights about this. All right, so if you've been thinking about starting a business and you're trying to go ahead and broaden your reach through maybe YouTube or podcast, and you're wondering, hey, which one should I go with? Which one should I do? And really, there's a lot of different answers that you'll probably find online. I'll give you my personal take as far as working through the system or working through which medium you should go with. In short and in summary, really, you should be able to do both. Now, a lot of people argue, hey, you should go ahead and start a podcast. There's a lot more podcast listeners. There's a lot more people that are listening to podcasts as they drive to work. And although that is in theory the case, it makes it more available because when you look at video content is much more rich. You have to be more focused, more engaged. So think about the difference right there, right? So if you have an audience that's more focused, more engaged, you might have a better captured audience. Whereas if people are driving to work, they might be listening somewhat attentively, but not as full focused as they are with, like watching a movie versus listening to a song. You might be dancing or doing other things. So the same thing with the podcast. So that's one big difference. But when you look at starting a podcast is a lot easier. There's a lot less equipment. You're not on camera. There's a lot less editing. The prices as far as startup costs are a lot lower because of the bandwidth. There's not as much hosting requirements for a podcast as there might be for video production or editing or setting things up. So that's one thing that's already kind of out there. But I will share with you some insight that you really should be pushing for both. And I'll tell you why that is. Because really, when you create one single piece of content, let's say I go ahead and working on this blog or video piece of content, all you need to do now is distribute it. The issue that I found over the years is when people go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to have a podcast and that's going to have its own episodes. And then I'm going to go ahead and have a YouTube channel and that's going to have a whole different batch of episodes. That just becomes a little more difficult to manage. And then you have a blog and then that might have even different types of content. Instead, what you want to focus on is distribution. Okay. And the best way to do that is through video content. So here's kind of the thing. When you look at a content hierarchy pyramid, and you look at the most rich content, it's really video right now that's the most rich. And really, if you can, it's going to be VR virtual reality video. But that's kind of slim in terms of the bigger scope of things. Video is kind of the golden content though at the moment. And from video, what you can do is you can extract audio. So as I'm speaking right now, I'll be able to extract that audio. And now what you can do is convert that into a podcast. Now, yes, it's not all perfect because of the visuals that I might be presenting in video. Simply, it's just more rich. And I even had people that start out listening to my podcast on my investment channel, on the Traders Fly channel and podcast. And what they do is they listen to that, but then I'm referencing visuals and they don't see it. And then they look me back up on the video. But it works out as a win-win situation because what's going to happen is people know that, hey, he's got something on video. So if I want to watch the video, I can go get more details. If I just want to listen to the podcast as I'm driving to work, I could do that as well. So also with video, you can extract images. So if you're going to write, let's say, a huge blog post, what you could do is also extract pictures and images. And think about it, from the audio or from the video, you'll also be able to extract the text. So now as you've got your text and your blog, you've got images, you could put the video there, you could even put the audio there, and now you've got your whole blog post kind of done. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that if you start with a video, you're able to extract the audio, the images, and the text. And now you can distribute your content into the podcast networks, into the YouTube channel networks, even into the image searches and, working your blog as well. So there's a lot of great benefits. So what you want to do as you look at it, it's really more about content distribution. So if you start with one piece, where and how can you go ahead and distribute this content? Because now I only have to do production once. Remember, labor and time is kind of important, and it's a limited resource that you have. So if you're able to put in one amount of labor or do one blog post or video in a way, then you can distribute it to maybe your podcast and then maybe to your blog you know, because now you can create that, and to an image search. You know, you've got all sorts of rich multimedia networks. However, if you go ahead and start with a podcast, remember, with a podcast, there's only a few things you can extract. You can extract the text, and you've got your audio. You know, you might be able to do a few things by adding in some sample images here and there that are maybe stock images, but now you're pooling in other resources to generate that blog. Whereas from here, I can actually extract the screenshots of the video, and it's directly from the source. So it just shows you that there is just much more of a rich content medium and platform. Now, yes, I will agree that when you really look at things and you're looking at something like a podcast, it's just easier to start. You need less equipment. You don't need to be on video. Some people don't like being on video. You can get started a lot faster. The growth and reach is probably a little bit bigger because the audience discovering you through different mediums like that, it's just wider range. For example, third world countries are a little bit more easy to go in and listen to podcasts rather than watching a video, just because the bandwidth there and the infrastructure is not as easily available. So they might be preferring more audio. And just not to mention all the people driving to work, at least before all the coronavirus things going on, we're just more into the podcasting. If you're exercising, podcast is just an easier form of content to digest. Whereas with a video, it's more difficult. Think of it like watching a movie. It's more difficult to digest that content piece. However, with a video, people are more focused in on your content. So your message might be more heartfelt and more delivered, and you become more connected. So there are trade-offs to both, but I will say if you can start with a video, do so, because now you can distribute it. And I'm thinking about distribution. If you start with a podcast, it's fine, but now you're missing the video distribution networks. And you can't really go back and refilm. If you do, now you've got twice the work. You got to do the podcast and you got to do the video, and that just takes an enormous amount of time. Anyways, hope you found this video helpful and insightful. And if you did, feel free to grab some freebies or subscribe on the YouTube channel by clicking the links right here on this page. And of course, check out some other great videos that we have available. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.